UFC 294 Mokaev vs Volkanovski 2. This is a great card with some clutch replacements. The new main is miles better for me, but I think Kostya Chimaev was a more interesting matchup. Sharabutdin Magomedov vs Bruno Silva. This is a highly anticipated debut for the Russian prospect. Shara has infamously made the news for getting tested 21 times by USADA this year. In context, Kostya has passed 33 and Jones 21. From all the roided fighters he's facing, it's a wonder he hasn't gotten contact test. Shara is light on his feet with a bladed stance and keeps his hands down. He has dexterous legs that he uses at all ranges to both damage, counter, and score points, not that he ever needs them. Aside from the variety of kicks, he is just as mean with his clinch work and generates lots of power up close. He faces off against Bruno Silva, who is a respectable fighter who primarily relies on his boxing and sometimes cage wrestling. While he has never been knocked out, he has been getting dropped in his recent fights. I think is a bad matchup for Shara since he is too slow and his stance switching won't be enough to stifle the dexterous onslaught. Shara wins by KO. Victoria Dudakova vs Jinh Frey. Having gone 2-7, it's surprising Frey is still in the promotion. At 38 and unranked, it's obvious that she has no title prospects. As for her skills, she is an okay wrestler, but an awful striker who has no defense other than moving back. Her opponent Dudakova is even worse, going head first into punches. The biggest difference is Dudakova's style allows her to end up in the clinch where she can then secure takedowns. Frey's physicality might be a challenge, but I believe Dudakova will wrestle her way to victory. Nathaniel vs Muhammadjon Naimov. This is a pretty even matchup, all things considered. Wood is a good striker who can be a bit flat-footed at times. He has explosive strikes, but his undoing has been his chin and ability to finish. On the other hand, Naimov is light on his feet, uses more kicks, and also has power. Naimov has sloppy punches that let him down when he is going for a finish. He also slow to transition and can get caught up in wrestling changes. This could be a coin flip, but Naimov's slight size advantage should net him the win. Breeden vs Anshul Jubli. Breeden was a former student of Kraus, so that shows he is unathletic and has limited prospects. Apart from 1-2s and basic takedown defense, he is slow with a weak chin. He faces off against Jubli, who has ugly takedowns and good combos working the body and head. This is an easy pick, and Jubli gets it done by immigrant mentality. Azaitar vs sedriques dumas. Azaitar is primarily a striker who rushes forward dipping his head. He also wings his punches, often spamming overhands to his opponent's guard. Dumas is a bit more technical with a nice jab and throws the occasional head kick. He lacks a bit of pop but has the strength to finish off his submissions. My main worry in this fight is that Dumas does keep his hands low, but if he gets into the clinch, I think he will get the takedown and submit Azaitar. Javid Basharat vs Victor Henry. Javid is one of the few truly complete fighters. From grappling to striking to stance switching, he can do it all. Unlike his brother, he is mainly a striker, but where they both shine is their ability to transition from striking to wrestling and from striking to wrestling. This taxes their opponents, allowing them to dismantle their opponents. Henry is good in his own right and has a pretty high output as well as solid takedown defense. While Henry is tough to take down once you get him there, he is slow to get up and could end up being overwhelmed by Basharat. I have high hopes for Basharat, and I think he keeps the streak going. Mohammad Yahya vs Trevor Peak. Yahya is a concrusher who fights with no purpose behind his offense. He seems to concentrate on his output and can't react to his opponents. Peak, on the other hand, is a sloppy but brutish striker who refuses to settle when defending grappling situations. In all honesty, if Peak doesn't knock out Yahya in round 1, he should be cut from the UFC. Elliot vs Mokaev. Elliot is a pre-contender series tough winner who was scouted for the sole reason of beating Mighty Mouse. He has a spotty record, but it has more to do with his lack of concentration and showmanship rather than lack of ability. Mokaev is a surging prospect, but my issue with his style is that he is unable to force the takedown like the truly elite wrestlers. Once he is unable to take someone down, he panics and is unable to contend or pressure on the feet. I think Elliot will show up and derail this hype train. Nurmagomedov versus Muin Gafurov. Saeed is a dynamic striker who's so fast he looks like he's gliding. Being from Dagestan, he's also a pretty good wrestler who punishes sloppy takedowns. Unfortunately, he lacks striking fundamentals and over-relies on flashy moves. When he wrestles, he is still lacking in ground and pound and is too impatient to fully settle into a controlling position. Gafurov is nothing special and mostly forces takedowns to win fights. Saeed should finish this in the first. Ikram Aliskerov versus Warlley Alves. It makes sense why they would build up Aliskerov as a prospect that's only lost to Chimaev, however it's a bit ridiculous ranking him at number 11 so early on. In my opinion, he is soft at middleweight and should make the cut to 170 if he has title ambitions. Funnily enough, he is facing Alves, who's coming up from 170. I don't think this is the showcase that's been built in people's heads. Expect a stand-up fight where Aliskerov mops up the washed Alves. Magomed and Ankalaev versus Johnny Walker. Walker has been reinventing himself since his chin got exposed by Corey Anderson. After several camp changes, he now has a definitive style of controlling the distance and using his power and feints to force his opponents into his range. Ankalaev is also a counter-striker who also manages the distance well but throws minimal kicks. Additionally, he is more tentative in his offense and lacks jabs in his offense. Given the 3-round format, I think Walker could win the first round while Ankalaev takes the last 2 when he starts wrestling. Kamaru Usman versus Khamzat Chimaev. How I wish this was 5 rounds. The 2 biggest questions going into this fight are: how good is Chimaev? And is Usman past his sell-by? 3 rounds favor Chimaev, who has a questionable gas tank and doesn't shoot for takedowns past the first round, not that he needs to. Despite Usman's knees, his ability to defend takedowns is as sharp as ever. Now that he has made changes in his camp, I think he'll be better equipped to stand with Chimaev. Having said that, Usman doesn't throw hooks cause his knees are shot, and his body will still be open to liver kicks. Putting all this together, I think Khamzat knocks him out. Islam Makhachev versus Alexander Volkanovski 2. Or pound for pound 2. I don't think there's any point in wasting time really. I think Islam gets the win. Volkanovski seems to have a problem with southpaws, as seen in his first fight with Holloway. Unlike Holloway, Islam is better defensively and never stretches his hand-to-hand fight. This action, along with the wrestling threat, took the steam out of Volkanovski's point-kicking game. The only real way Volk had to close distance was to throw marching combos, but with how he reacted to Islam's power, that wouldn't be a sound strategy. In the event, they ended up in clinches. Islam had the leverage and strength to win the exchanges. In conclusion, I think Islam is a bad stylistic matchup for the Aussie, and I expect him to have an easier fight this time round.